for Sustainable project. Thank you for taking time off to join us for this evening session. Without much ado, it is my singular honor and privilege to call upon our RI Director, Surgeon Liu Chi Chen, to deliver his opening remarks. Over to you, Director. Thank you.
Dear moderator, EMGA PDG Leo, Institute Chair, RC Gimbal, all the trainers, Rotary dignitaries, my fellow Rotarians, good evening. Here, I'm going to speak to you about the subject of fundraising ideas. When we talk about fundraising, there are two things we have to consider. One is the fund, the other is raising the money. Therefore, the learning objectives of the program are to learn the meaning of the Rotary Foundation funds and to learn the land-raising ideas. And we are talking the fundraising for the Rotary Foundation. As you may know, in the past 100 years, Rotarians and friends of Rotary have funded over $3 billion in programs and created lasting impact for people around the world. Without the financial resources, the activities that Rotarians do good in the world would not be possible. Now, I would like to mention several things. The first is, why should we donate to the Rotary Foundation? Because our donation makes a difference to those who need our help most. More than 90% of donation go directly to supporting our service project around the world. This is to say we are the service organization. The big amount of the donation goes to support the service project. The second is how Rotary Foundation uses the donations. Because over 35,000 clubs carry out sustainable service projects that support our 7 causes. With donations like yours, we have wiped out 99.9% of all polio cases. Your donation also trains future peacemakers, supports clean water, and strengthens local economics. Again, it talks about the service project. The third is what impact the donation brings, because it saves life. A child can be protected from polio with as little as 50 cents. Our partners make our donation go even further. For every $1 Rotary commits to polio eradication, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has committed $2. The conclusion to my speech today is that we know contribution to the Rotary Foundation can save lives. We use every donation to our service projects. That makes a difference to those need our help. Polio eradication is still our top priority in contribution. Rotary has been working to eradicate polio for 30 years, and our goal of ridding the earth of this disease is in sight. Finally, I will say fundraising needs every Rotarian to make the contribution and serve to change life. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Surgeon Liu, for your motivating address. And I'm sure you have inspired many who are gathered here tonight, this evening, to do more for the Rotary Foundation. Now it's my pleasure to present to you our distinguished speakers. The first is past District Governor, Siti Zubaida, District Rotary Foundation Chair, District 330, Zone 10C, will be presenting Giving Made Easy. And next will be the past District Governor, Leslie Saludin, 2022-25 Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator for Zone 10B and 10C, who's going to share with us on fun in fundraising. And lastly, past District Governor Michael Yee, Assistant Regional Rotary Coordinator, Zone 10C, who's going to share with us on a long-term sustainable fundraising in elevating poverty with the topic, The Life You Can Save, Acting Now to End Poverty. After all the speakers have completed their presentation, we'll have a question and answer session, and I welcome all your active participation here. Thank you. Now let's give a big hand to welcome our first speaker, PGD Siti. Over to you, Siti.
Thank you. Thank you, moderator, EMGA, PDG Leo Cheng Lim. Very good evening, fellow Rotarians, our convener, RI Director, Surgeon, and again, warm welcome to this session. Let me just share my screen. Okay. The topic that has been given to me, and I think it's a good start to this session on fundraising, is how we can make giving easy. As we know, we have all been in a position as governors, past district governors, even AGs, DGEs, and every one of you, the club leaders, have always had this challenge of how can you make giving easy when giving to the foundation is one of our, or is in fact our obligation as a Rotarian. So let me share with you some of the things that we hopefully can be done. I think the first thing any district would want to do is perhaps set a goal. And these goals that we could set is how do we encourage every club to participate in the foundation, the programs of foundation, in the activities of the foundation. How do we encourage every Rotarian to give, even the minimum amount of 25 US? How do we encourage them? How do we motivate the Rotarians, new Rotarians, past Rotarians, senior Rotarians, because some of our senior Rotarians have given up on the foundation too. So how do we encourage Rotarians to actually continue giving to the foundation? And the other goal we should have is how can we explore or encourage clubs to explore global grants or grant projects that has got a greater impact, bigger projects, and are sustainable. So if we can work around these three goals, we have a reason why Rotarians should give to the foundation. And what impact can one donation have? I think for as little as 60 cents, a child is protected from polio. $50 US can provide clean water to help waterborne diseases. 500 US can launch an anti-enabling campaign and create a safe environment. So even as little as 60 cents, your contribution is part of a global effort. It's part of the humanitarian service that Rotary embarks on. So it doesn't matter whether it's a large sum that you are able and capable of contributing, but even the little amount that you give to the foundation helps greatly. And we want to also be able to share with our Rotarians this big question of where does your giving go to? It's really a form of investment. We invest in programs of the foundation like the Rotary Peace Fellowships, RILA, the New Generation Service Exchange Programs, the Rotary Community Corps, Rotary Youth Exchange, scholarships, and of course grants, the various focus areas of our Rotary Foundation. There's 7 areas of focus that covers our grants. And it's also important, while some of these projects will not be able to carry out due to the pandemic, but Rotary Foundation continue to focus and emphasize on all these programs that we are working on. And where does your fund go? How does your fund, how does your fund of even say $100 US is shared more globally? The annual fund that you contribute, for example, 47.5% goes to the World Fund. 47.5% returns back to your district as district designated fund, and we retain 5% for operating expenses. As Director Surgeon mentioned earlier, 90% of our fund is spent on our projects. Now, with that designated fund that you receive in your district, of course, some districts, they allocate for their district grants. And of course, some of us are international partners, international host partners for global grant projects, as well as local host partners for our local projects. But bearing in mind, these district grants have got zero match, while the World Fund matches a DDF of 80% currently for any global grant projects. So these are some of the projects, some of why we contribute, and it comes back to our district where we can utilize the funds. But more importantly, the 47.5% of our fund is kept here. So our giving is really so well utilized and so well distributed that when we carry out projects, the impact is just now and forever. The annual gifts to the foundation help people around the globe to live better lives, and the planned gifts to our foundation support the same life-changing programs forever and ever. I'd just like to share with you here a project that was just recently carried out by Rotary Club Pudu from our district. But the unique thing about this project is that it involved not only just the host partner clubs, but several partner clubs within the district. The smaller clubs were able to participate, and by participating in projects in these grants, they were able to appreciate where their funding, where their giving goes to, even as little as a small contribution to the foundation. In our district, we are to this year around, introduce what we call tabung kita, and everyone will remember this little piggy bank we used to have when we were kids. Tabung kita was introduced this year, where we would like to share this thing about how small actions, and with everyone putting in that little gift, big changes can be done. As little as just 1 ringgit a day, if you put into your little tabung or your little piggy bank, you can imagine how much at the end of 360 days, you'll be able to use those funds and contribute to our annual fund or even to end polio. This was a polio campaign that we did recently on contributing and funds raised for our polio on Polio Day, which was recently concluded. Can you imagine 88 Rotary clubs? If you have 400 ringgit per tabung, that's 35,000. But if 200 Rotarians were to contribute 400, which is about 100 US, our district would be able to contribute close to 200,000 US for polio. And by contributing, you're giving gifts, every child hope. So that little amount that we talk about, 100 US a Rotarian for polio, is a large contribution when put it all together. This is an exercise that we will do for the other tabung or the other piggy bank. Again, it's a fundraising in a very small way, but at the end of the day, we turn small actions to big changes. Our daily lives change, and we can change many lives across the nation. This is a little public image which we did of how all the clubs were involved with this project. It may be a very small project, but every club, every Rotarian, we distributed 2,000, 4,000 of these little piggy banks. So every one of us make it a point to actually save. And not only is it a matter of saving, but really is to share with non-Rotarians of what we do, even in a small way, and how they can be part of our little giving. So my friends, this is the questions we should ask ourselves and every Rotarian. Do you really believe in the Rotary Foundation? Does the Rotary Foundation do good? And will we give to the Rotary Foundation? If we subscribe to all these three, certainly every small bit of our actions will make a difference in everybody's life, a child's life in this image, a hospital environment, clean water, educate children in literacy, medical intervention, dementia for the old people. So giving made easy is what we should try and encourage all our Rotarians, because the more we give, the more we could do bigger and impactful projects. It is our role as Rotarians to encourage every one of us, and we have to have this obligation that the Rotary Foundation, that to support the Rotary Foundation, be it supporting it in giving, be it participating in the programs of the foundation and doing bigger projects so that we can reach out to more and more people around the world. Yes, thank you very much. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you, PDG-CT. I think that was a very interesting topic on making giving it easy. And we have seen it, and our district have practiced it. And I'm sure this year we are going to ride high in polio. Thank you, PDG-CT. Now, let's go back to that's on fundraising and giving easy. Now is the fun in fundraising. I call upon PG Leslie Saludin, 2022-25 Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator, to share with us his slides and presentation on fun in fundraising. Over to you, PDG Leslie. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator, EMGA, Leo, Rotary leaders, and my philanthropic Rotary friends. Yeah, PDG-CT has sort of laid the premise that you have the rationale for you to support the Rotary Foundation, making giving very easy. And now I'm just going to build on that. I'm going to share with you a little bit about how you could make your fundraising events fun. So let me just share slides with you all, yeah, on this little presentation. What's happening to my share screen? Sorry, just give me a minute. Am I able to share screen? Tech team?
Yes, you can.
Can, yeah? Okay. All right, sorry about that. Let me. Okay, right. Let me start with the first slide. Okay, so my topic is fun in fundraising. Yeah, I'm going to share with you a little bit about both our district's experience, 3300 and 3310. And of course, there's so many exciting projects, fundraising projects that you all have done in your districts, and knowing your creativity. But just allow me to share with you, because I believe that fundraising should be fun, so that it will be easy in the pocket and painless. Yeah. And it need not be, the fun is FUN, need not be frustrating, it need not be underwhelming, and it need not be nerve-wracking. So you must convert your fun, your acronym FUN, to far-reaching, to uniting your members, and it should be novel. Yeah, just remember that. Yeah, that your fun should be far-reaching, you should unite your members in doing the project, and it should be a novel idea. All right. So I'm going to take you through a pictorial journey of some of these fundraising efforts for the foundation, especially for End Polio Now and other causes too. All right, and showcasing selective endeavors and initiatives undertaken by creative Rotarians in both our districts. So just a caveat or a disclaimer, a lot of these events took place before the onset of the pandemic. All right, so having fun for fundraising, I'm going to share with you various ways that you could raise funds. Yeah, we're going to look at world's greatest meal. We can look at some physical activities. We're going to have parties. You're going to have sale of items, virtual auctions, and virtual concerts. All right, let's kick off with the world's greatest meal. This Rotary Club, one of their members, the past president, owns a Mughal restaurant, a Northern Indian restaurant, and he decided to do a world's greatest meal. So it was a plate. And you know, Asians just love to eat, and Malaysians are no exception. So always the idea of a WGM would resonate very well with Asian Rotarians. Yeah, I'm sure your club and your will be able to do your world's greatest meal, be it fine dining, be it casual dining, al fresco. Malaysians also love their durians. So one Rotary Club Penang had a big durian feast, and every members paid up a sum of money for this finest durian, Musang King. If you know about durian, the Musang King variety in this particular durian estate. And not only was all fun and eating durians, they also had a talk by Professor Rajesh, basically on the polio, what polio is all about and all that. Yeah. All right, and of course you could have party. This particular club, Rotary Bandar Utama, had let's connect, world's greatest meal. So they had a little bit of a party, and it was by subscription, buy a plate, and you come in and dine and wine and have fun generally. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's go down south to Singapore. Rotary Club of Queenstown. This particular past president, Agnes, was very creative. She decided to take out the stalls, so hired the stalls in the food court, and to get the members in fancy dress to either cook or bake and operate a food court, food stalls for a day. And then you can sell your tickets, and you got lucky prize draw. So they managed to raise about Singapore 26,000 for Dignity Kitchen, a social enterprise. Right? I'm sure this can be replicated in your district, whether in the Philippines and whether in Taiwan, whether you are in Bangladesh or Pakistan. It's just a matter of planning and doing it when it is safe for you to go out there and have able to interact and able to have your meals. All right. And of course, how could we leave out Oktoberfest? Some of our clubs are very keen on Oktoberfest. Rotary Club of Damansara Heights in my district, 3300, every year will organize in aid of End Polio now a subscription event. Right? And this year it coincides with the Hindu festival of Deepawali as well, which is just over last Saturday. And it was all fun. They had the best dressed couple and things like that. Yeah. And Rotary Club of Queenstown too had their own version of Oktoberfest. They hosted a party at home with turkey and all that. And it was an Hawaiian night. So we can do all that. All these possibilities are endless. Now from food, we go on to something a little bit more exertive. Yeah. Put on your walking shoes, put on your running shoes, and let's kick off this whole idea about the Walk to End Polio. This actually started when I was governor way back in 2009-10, when we had one very physically conscious and health conscious Rotarian, past President Robin Taylor, and he initiated this walk, a distance of some 450 kilometers, ending in our Discon at the Subang Sheraton Hotel. And he led, and along the way, the club, the Rotarians, the spouses, the partners, and road tractors, the interactors would accompany this group of 4 brave Rotarians who walked. He was accompanied by Bhutan, Tiffany, and also joined by PPT Waylian of District 3310. Yeah? And not only that, they replicated this walk later on, climbed up Mount Kinabalu. So it morphed from a walk to a climb. And again, Rotarian Robin was the man behind all this. Yeah. So we are looking forward to more exercises to do that. Okay. So clubs have done things like walk and cycle with friends and family to end polio. And you know, our General Secretary, John Hugo, he's a great advocate for cycling. And he and the windy cyclists in Chicago have been creating that buzz every time wearing the End Polio now shares on road bikes, and off they go cycling to raise funds and create awareness on End Polio now. All right. So this particular club, Rotary Club Bukit Angkasa, organized an event for walk as well as our polio survivors on wheelchairs to do the walk to the city, because there was one Sunday a month at that time when we had a carless day. So where the whole central business district was free of traffic, and they could cycle, they could walk, they could push the pram, they could go rollerblading, whatever. Yeah, and we got the Ironside, yeah, the ones on the wheelchair. They can do that. And here His Royal Highness The Raja of Perlis was also with them in great support for this particular event, right? And if you've got a bit more energy and more energetic, here we have an Associate Professor Shamin for the Manipal University, who have cycled some 2,000 kilometers, the length and breadth of Peninsular Malaysia over 14 days to raise funds for polio in 2 years, 2018, 2019. And of course, along the way, Rotarians were so happy to host him. They were happy not to take over the bicycle. They were happy just to host him, provide him shelter and food, and he's done a great job in end polio now. Now, those on 2 wheels, the motorized 2 wheels, the bikers are not left out, the motorcyclists. We had this big event where we got our Harley-Davidson club from Penang, joined up with the Harley-Davidson group from Temerloh. We met in KL. They biked all the way to the city of Ipoh, all right? And we also inaugurated the International Fellowship of Motorcycling Rotarians Malaysian chapter. The then governor, Leo, who is a moderator here, was at that particular event. It ended with the world's greatest meal. The children, we brought the children from the homes to ride on the bikes, and they were all pretty excited. So it was a fun day of fundraising. Yeah, not to be outdone, District 3310 have got the Harley ladies. And again, focusing on past President Agnes Kwek, when she was then with Rotary Club of Queenstown, she and her daughter, Gabrielle, they go Harley riding. And they've got Harley Ladies of Singapore. So we're hoping next year we could meet in Malacca. We'll call it, there was a ride out polio, now we're going to call it drive out polio. We will get the 2-wheelers, we'll get the 4-wheelers, the classic cars, enthusiasts, and the vintage car Rotarians to join us as well. Yeah, so we're going to do something like that as well. All right, so just to share with you this, a short video clip on the Harley-Davidson ride that we organized. All right, so that was the Harley bikers, lots of buzz, lots of excitement along the way. And again, not to be outdone, we have our Rotarians down south in Singapore. And this was an initiative of DGE Joanne, who is the chair of End Polio now for District 3310, last Rotary year. She did two programs. In fact, one was Step Up Polio, basically, we call it a weight loss challenge. And then the other one was a steps challenge, where she challenged Rotarians to walk steps in raising funds and also a weight loss program. So it was a very successful program. She managed to raise quite a fair bit and created a lot of buzz. And Rotarians were complaining thereafter, after the event, that they have to get a new wardrobe, new belt, for instance. They have to have, they couldn't fit into the wardrobe with all the exercise that Joanne was urging them to. Weight loss, tremendous. So I think they're quite happy to get a new wardrobe thereafter. So well done. That was project that your club can emulate. Yeah, it combines the fun event, the physical event, it unites your member. Remember the U I mentioned, it unites your member. All right. So, and it's a novel way of raising fund. So you can do that. All right, let's move on to items that your club could sell, and either they could be made by your members or it could be outsourced in manufacturing. So various clubs have been doing various things. Rotary International or Rotary Foundation has got a crocus, which our district has sold to members, the crocus, which symbolizes end polio now. They wear it on your jacket. And even the current incumbent governor from District 3310, Governor Dolly, has sold limited edition watches. Yeah, and of the Rotarians have again gone into food. You can see the variety of food that we have, whether it's biscuit, murukus, candles, chocolates, coffee mugs, t-shirts, you name it, whether it's consumable or not. So there's a whole plethora of events that you can sell. Road Club Subang, one of the member made chocolate. There's homemade chocolate, which they sold by End Polio now. Another member decided to make moon cake. Yeah, and then another member made murukus. So as I said, Malaysians love the food and love the snacks. So it's always able to do that. And of course, imitation is best form of flattery, as you say. So one of our Rotarians from our district is going to emulate DG Dolly's idea of limited edition watches for End Polio now as well. Right? And what about artists within your Rotary family? You've got artists, you've got those who are weather sculptors and artists. You can do a one-man show, a one-woman show, or multiple auction, whether it's virtual or physical, at a gallery. And I'm sure Rotarians are quite happy to pick up beautiful pieces for their home and office. Yeah, we can do that. So we are going to organize that in our district as well. And with the talent that we have, musicians with the pandemic are now having home concerts to raise funds. And I'm just thinking, wow, look at that, District 3310, they had a virtual concert. They've organized that. They had video on that. The road tractors have been doing this. And I'm just thinking, my Filipino Rotary friends, mabuhay, with the talent that you have, imagine Lia Salonga can do a one night only, just like Adele did hers recently with 10 million logins at the Griffiths Observatory in LA, right? What my club did was we had a concert pianist from Poland, Irene Szwezenska, years ago at the then newly opened planetarium. And it was quite an effort to move to assemble the grand piano, move it to the narrow door, get it tuned up again for her to play. So it was a concert with a difference. So think about that. Yeah, you can have different venues, different events, and different locations to supplement your event. And you can organize things like treasure hunt. Yeah, like this couple. Yeah, we can do treasure hunt and also TikTok videos on how your club can do that. PDG City has created a lot of buzz with tabung kita. A lot of Rotarians are now dancing to holding cans and tabung kita in raising money. And if you're bold enough, something that is some consider it's fun, some consider, wow, I'm going to lock my beautiful lock of hair. So this Rotary Club, our newest chartered Rotary Club, the Rotary Club of the E Club of One Kuala Lumpur, led by Charter President Rajita, and all the members, they've all shaved bald for the cause of cancer. And we also have Rotarians from District 3310. Simon is there on the right-hand screen, and I think his hair is going to grow very quickly. He says, it's not a problem. I don't have much hair anyway. So it's for a good cause. Why not? So my friends, there are lots of things that you can do. You can be very creative. And I'm sure my Filipino friends would agree that you have all the creativity. You can take over the Singing Chef restaurant for a day and use that for your venue, for your fundraising. You can do so many things, but just be cautious that because of the pandemic and the concerns, we can do all those exciting physical events once it is safe to do so. So right now, we're still in a hybrid mode and virtual mode, yeah? So, but the club, when they shaved bald and managed to raise 41,000 plus ringgit for cancer, fantastic effort as the first project when they started as an interest group, and now as new member, the newest member of our district. All right, my friends. So please have fun. raising funds so we can continue to do good in the world. Yeah, whatever you do, have fun, my friends. So thank you so much for listening. And over to you, moderator. Thank you so much.
Thank you, PG Leslie. There was certainly a very, very interesting and a fun way of fundraising. So many of us feel that fundraising is a problem, but I think if you think out of the box, there are many ways of doing it, as PDG Leslie have shared with us. Now we have come to a time where we're going to look at fundraising from a different perspective, something which is very new and it is very informative, and how we look at fundraising from the aspects of alleviating poverty. Now let's call upon Past District Governor Michael Yee, Assistant Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator for Zone 10C, to share with us on the topic, The Life You Can Save, Acting Now to End Poverty. Over to you, PG Michael.
Okay, thank you, EMGA Leo. Let me share my screen first. All right, I assume all of you can see the screen, sharp and clear. Okay, now I'm going to talk about fundraising to give you the other side of the story. Okay, about world poverty. World poverty is a very important issue, and it has been tackled by many organizations, including the United Nations. Now, Peter Singer is an ethical philosopher from Princeton University. He says, if you are paying for something to drink, when safe drinking water comes out of the tap, you have money to spend on things you don't really need. Imagine you have a cup of coffee at Starbucks or somewhere, or maybe some other drinks, some latte drink or whatever. It may cost you about, say, about $5 to $7, right? Whether it's in ringgit or whether it's in Sing dollars. You'll be surprised that there are many people in the world, they don't even have that amount for their daily needs. Now, there are about 1 billion people, 1 billion to something like 1.5 billion. Okay, they struggle every day, and they live on less than what you paid for that drink, right? You see, they can't even afford to pay for the basic health care for their families. Their children may die from simple, easily treatable diseases like diarrhea. In fact, so far the latest report says about 6.6 million children die from treatable diseases, all right? And according to UNICEF, that is good news. Good news, why? Because the previous year, it was 6.9 million. So in other words, there were 300,000 children less dying. And in the 90s, it was about 12 billion. So the number of children dying unnecessarily has been dropping, but that still works out to around 18,000 children per day. In other words, by tonight, midnight, 18,000 children would have died from a treatable disease like diarrhea. I repeat, by tonight, about around 18,000 children would have died from diarrhea. So it's really incredible if you think about it. So today, these are the learning objectives. I want to talk about what is poverty, why should we care, is it a problem, and if it is, what can we do about it? Then next, I will talk about effective altruism, do something that you wouldn't have that happened anyway, and then I'll talk about the donor life cycle and generational giving. So, okay, this is the first one, defining what is poverty. Today, the world has about 7.9 billion people, 7.9 billion. I think by about 2040 or so, we'll reach about 9 billion. So we are already almost 8 billion people. And this number of people have increased more than 10 times since the Industrial Revolution. Those who study history will know the Industrial Revolution started in England at about 1750 with the invention of the steam engine, right? So now, since billions more have been added in the 20th century, right? And so, of course, this makes for a very complicated world because the world consists of rich, poor, and extreme poor, and those in between. Now, if you look at this chart where it shows the growth of human population, you look at here, you know, it was about 9,000 years ago, and you see that the world population has roughly been about, I think it's around about 500 million all the way until you see at the start of the Industrial Revolution, there was a spike, right? There was a spike, and then the world population went on an exponential increase. Okay, so you can see this is a global GDP. A GDP is a gross domestic product. We're talking about global, not country, right? It's the total number of economic goods produced per capita. You can see that, let's say we start from the year 1 AD, right? You see now it's pretty flat all the way until round about the Industrial Revolution, 1750. And then you see the GDP starts to go up, all right? Now this going up is more to the countries that have benefited from the Industrial Revolution, countries like England, Western Europe, and then after that it spread to America. So, and much of the world have not caught up. In fact, most of the world were consistently poor up until about the Industrial Revolution, 1750. In other words, at the time it was pretty fair. Almost everyone was poor. Everyone was agricultural because there was not really any industry yet at the time. That there were no mass manufacturing and all that. So the world was uniformly poor, right? Uniformly poor up until about 1750. Now the Western countries, of course, they have prospered with the Industrial Revolution, but the rest have remained stuck in their poverty, right? They have not moved. So in other words, there is a divergence between the rich nations and the poor nations, right? So just remember a divergence. And in economics, we always like to talk about convergence and divergence. A convergence means that as a country prospers, we converge with the West. In other words, we get nearer and nearer to the Western standard of living. And then divergence mean that the countries have fallen behind. So the World Bank has a definition of world poverty, of extreme poverty, and it's something like 1 billion people. Now, the world now there are about 7.9 billion people, about 1 to 1.5 billion are affluent like us. They are relatively wealthy. And in between, there are about 4 to 5 billion that are moderately, they are not extreme poverty, but they are not rich, but they are not that poor, right? But the bottom billion are those with less than 125 US per day. See, that is what they live on per day. You can imagine that cup of latte or at Starbucks, it would definitely cost more than this, right? So this is the world poverty line. So when the next time you go to Starbucks, you think again, you know, you are if you're drinking away a lot more than the extreme poor would ever have in that one day. So you can see from here, the average income by country, income grouping. Now, they always divide it in this way. There's a high income, more than $35, and a low income, about $1. And in between is a middle income. The middle income, they subdivide into upper middle and the lower middle, right? So the low middle income are more of the developing countries. And of course, those at the bottom here are the bottom billion. Now, these countries are stuck. Now, this is just a picture of extreme poverty. Right, you can see from here why global citizens should care. Now, this is a picture of what is called favelas or urban slums on the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, right? Now, in fact, you see all these are urban slums. The people are extremely poor, but behind is a modern city. They're usually on the outskirts. So this means that these people who belong to the extreme poor, they don't have enough for themselves, for the family, for all the basic needs and so on. And the children cannot even complete primary education. You know, the United Nations Millennium Development Goals says that all children must have minimum primary education so that they can be gainfully employed, so that they can be legible, so that they can be literate and numerate. Literate means they know how to read and write. Numerate means they know how to count. So in other words, to have literacy, you must be literate and numerate, right? So they got no access to healthcare and unlikely to have safe drinking water or sanitation in their homes. So the ultimate purpose is to reduce extreme poverty, right? I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty. Okay, nobody needs to feel guilty, okay? But just that I want to make you change the way you look at the tragedy of persistent poverty in a world of plenty. We are living in a world of plenty, but this problem of poverty is so persistent, and it persisted from the ancient times up to this modern day. Now, in the year 2000, the United Nations have these 8 Millennium Development Goals, right? So they were saying that in 15 years, by 2015, they want to reduce extreme poverty by 50%, right? So at the time, they were more concerned about HIV/AIDS. You can see from here. But of course, now this is no longer a concern. Now it's more like COVID and other corona viruses. You see, and then in fact, they did pretty well. By 2015, more than half the world have got out of extreme poverty, and that is primarily because of China. China has a population of about 1.4 billion, and they lifted more than 1 billion out of extreme poverty. So China now has become what is called a middle income nation. And India has also done quite a bit. So in other words, with the combination of China and India, much of the world has been lifted out of extreme poverty, right? So the goal has been achieved. So once the goal has been achieved, then they set upon this what is called the Sustainable Development Goals, and they increased that to 17 goals altogether, okay? By 17 goals, and you can see that all these goals are quite similar to our 7 areas of focus, except they, they break them up into more groupings, so they're quite similar. But you can see the main problem is the alleviation of poverty, right? We may never be able to end poverty completely, but we can alleviate it. Alleviate means we can make it less burdensome, right? Because we know the poor people, the extreme poor, they bear the main burdens of suffering from climate change. They bear the main burdens of disease, of lack of education, lack of water, lack of sanitation. In other words, like for example, the rich countries, like USA, Western Europe, China, they pollute the air, right? So climate change. So, and then they prosper. But the people who suffer the consequences are the extreme poor. And they didn't contribute to climate change at all, right? So because they're so poor, right? So they are the ones who bear the burdens of all these modern inconveniences and disease. Now, so how much is one life worth, right? Because we want to save lives, but how much is one life worth? Now, this is a very famous picture. Many of you would have seen this before. It was taken by a photographer called Kevin Carter, and it won the Pulitzer Prize. Now, there is a little boy, right? Previously, some thought it was a girl, but it turned out this was a boy, okay? All right, I think less than a year old, or just about 1 to 2 years old. And he was struggling because he got no energy, no strength. He was struggling, trying to walk to the feeding center for his milk, right? And then you can see after that, a vulture flew by, waiting for this boy to die because vulture feed on corpses. So can you imagine? There are many corpses, the children who died from malnutrition. So the vulture was in fact waiting for the boy to die, right? But of course, the latest story is we found out that the boy made his way to the feeding center, right? And then this picture won the photographer the Pulitzer Prize, right? And then you see. Now, and then about 4 months later, Kevin Carter, the photographer, was dead. He took his own life. He couldn't take it anymore. He says, I'm haunted by the vivid memories of killings and corpses and anger and pain, of starving or wounded children, of trigger-happy madmen, often police, of killer executioners. He won the Pulitzer Prize, and 4 months later, he was dead. He felt so guilty because he took the photo and he didn't do anything to help the child. He was waiting for the perfect photo. In fact, he confessed he was waiting for the vulture to spread his wings so that the picture will be more dramatic. So after that, many people criticized him and all that, but of course, he felt pangs of guilt, and he couldn't take it anymore, and he took his life 4 months after winning the Pulitzer Prize. So now 70% of these 1 billion people are in Africa, unfortunately, right? And these countries are usually small. Now, life expectancy is very, very short, 50 years. 50 years of brutish life, right? Those in the the prosperous countries can expect to live about 70 to 80 to 90 years old, depending on the gender, whether you're male or female, and infant mortality is 14%. Infant mortality is defined as those who can live up to about 1 year old. Another definition is for child mortality is those who can survive up to the 5th year, right? So depending on how you count it. Long-term malnutrition is 36% of the population. So this is a world life expectancy map. You can see all these red colored countries are those with long, 70, 80 years or more. And you can see the concentration here, mainly in Africa and Central Asia. These are those with very short lifespan, 40 to 50 years. That means their life expectancy at birth, right? So the bottom countries are poorer than they were in 1970. Can you imagine that? In other words, we are now in the 21st century. The condition they are living in, they are poorer than they were in 1970. So it shows how bad the situation is. So since 1980, all right, world poverty has been falling for the first time in history. Okay, so as I told you, more than half, 50%, they have been lifted out of poverty, all right? But a few countries, they have fallen behind, you know, and they are not only falling behind, but they are falling apart. They are trapped because they are trapped in what is called the 4 distinct development traps. And what are they? You see, okay, so the world is shrunk, right? So the change must come from the bottom. And sometimes we give foreign aid and all that, but the problem is the change must come primarily from within, right? Because you see, at the bottom, they are the villains. In fact, many governments are ruled by villains, right? They have the guns, they have the money, right? And then, in fact, Paul Collier is an Oxford economist. He wrote the book called The Bottom Billion. He says that development is about giving hope to ordinary people so that the children will live in a society that is caught up with the rest of the world. Take that hope away and the smart people will use their energies not to develop the societies, but to escape from it as have 1 million Cubans. So, and then with hard work, okay, and all that intelligence, right, a society can climb out of poverty unless it gets trapped. So unfortunately, countries get trapped. So these are the 4 big development traps. Like, okay, so I'll go through them one by one, all right? So first of all, it's a conflict trap. The conflict trap, you know, now 73% of people in the bottom billion, they are in a civil war, all right? Or they've recently been through one, all right? And so on, okay? And civil war means low income. Low income means poverty and low growth, or maybe even no growth, right? So it means lots of hopelessness and many available young men. And of course, I think some of you would even recognize this picture of this guy, who is the founder of the Lord's Resistance Army, you know, Joseph Kony, child kidnapper, warlord, prophet. Okay, now he has terrorized quite a few countries in Central Africa, right? So, and then you can see from here, the people engaging in political violence are the young, the uneducated, and those without dependents. And look at these African child soldiers, right? So, right, now it's very sad. So therefore, 3 conditions make a country prone to civil war: low income, slow growth, and dependence on primary commodity exports. Now this is important. I'm coming to that, right? So of course, once a civil war stops, they do not stop once the fighting stops. In other words, those economic losses and diseases don't stop even when the fighting stops, right? The problem persists and continues. So of course, we're talking about primary commodity exports. There are many countries with natural resources, and in fact, this is called the resource curse. In fact, the resources are the one that trap them, right? So many of them are in what is called resource-rich poverty. Right, so this is paradox. They have the resources, okay, and yet they are extremely poor. Just as an example, a study was made, I think in the Central African Republic, you know, where they exported about $1 billion worth of gold. $1 billion worth of gold, and you know how much got into the government treasury? 37,000. Out of $1 billion export in gold, $37,000 made it into the government treasury. So, and especially, you know, logging, whether it's legal or illegal, is an important industry worldwide. And of course, you know, extraction of crude oil to meet global oil demand, and all these are, of course, also contributing to the climate change, okay, and so on, right? So when there is plenty of money, right, resources, right, so the leaders would tend to embezzle funds, spend on large pet projects, they will build big palaces, big gardens and so on, right? The corrupt win the elections. I think many of you know who these people are. And so because of this, they reduce the need to tax, right? So some countries have no tax, right? Make the people happy, right? So they undercut public scrutiny and so on, right? And then the parties compete for votes by patronage. And then, of course, many of these countries, they are ruled by autocracies, autocrat or dictator, right? And with little ethnic diversity, because diversity tends to narrow the support base of the autocrat, right? And requires greater income distribution to the autocratic group. So, of course, okay, we want the country to have more diversity so that the autocrats cannot be in such a great power. Now, landlocked with bad neighbors, this is a serious problem. Now, this is a problem of geography, okay? Right. Now, this one countries cannot avoid. It's due to bad luck. There are many countries that are landlocked. Something like 58 countries in the world are landlocked. In other words, they are surrounded by land. They have no easy access to water, to the coast. So, in other words, you see, they are not able to reach infrastructure to the coast. So now, here's a map of the landlocked countries. You can see that mostly in tropical Africa, Central Asia, right? Okay, you see the names of the countries are over here. Of course, there's Mongolia, Laos, and so on. And then, of course, Bolivia and Paraguay. And so many countries in Africa, right? Around 58 countries in the world, landlocked and surrounded usually by bad neighbors. And you can see the least developed countries are also around the landlocked countries. You can see from here, landlocked countries, they are also among the least developed. And then, of course, you look at this World Bank income group classification. The red color are those that are very impoverished, extremely poor. I can see again, mainly the landlocked countries. Then again, the world poverty map again. The blue are those rich countries, and these dark colors here are the extremely poor, right? You see, again, mainly in Africa, Central Asia, and some parts of South Asia as well, right? So landlocked countries. Then, surprisingly, this is a world happiness map. You may not be able to see. There's one little speck of blue over here. This is Bhutan. Bhutan is landlocked, but they're happy because they don't ask for much. Bhutan, one little speck of blue over here. But okay, otherwise, you can see that the landlocked countries are the least happy, right? Dark red. So, you see, the problem with being in a landlocked country is because you have got no access to the coast, right? So you cannot export. So once you cannot export, you cannot have manufacturing. Once you cannot manufacture goods, because you are not going to send the goods by plane, by air, right? So you have to send it by ship, okay, or by some train or whatever. But if you're surrounded by unfriendly neighbors, how are you going to export to the coast? So in other words, most of the landlocked countries do not have manufacturing. But everybody knows that industrialization is one of the factors that can make a country prosper. Without industrialization, how to grow, right? So they are stuck. So bad governance in a small country, again, you see, again, bad governance and policies can destroy an economy with alarming speed. So see, why is bad governance so persistent? Because some benefit, right? You know what they mean. Many of these people are villains and they belong to the global super rich. Some names come to mind, right? Like Robert Mugabe, Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, and all this, right? They belong to the global super rich. But now, of course, they are all dead. So there are three characteristics that encourage a turnaround. You need larger populations. You need higher proportion of people with a secondary education. That means even more than primary school education. And of course, recent emergence from a civil war, right? But turnarounds are rare because many of these reformers are always in danger because they are either receiving death threats or they are put in jail for a long time, right? So the reformers' lives are always in danger. So the struggle for the bottom billion is, right? So the brave people will struggle, okay, and then but the odds are against them because, there are several instruments like aid, security, laws, charters, and trade, and so on. The first one, aid, is used quite a bit, but used quite badly because sometimes aid goes into the wrong hands. And of course, the other security laws and all that, laws are for the powerful and so on. They are scarcely used at all. So Robert Wright is a former US Secretary of Labor under Bill Clinton. So he said that, when people are frustrated and angry, right? So they work hard and they get nowhere, right? So they are vulnerable to demagogues who will tell them that the problem is foreigners or immigrants and so on. And so they blame the rich, they blame the immigrants, they blame the government, right? It's easy to find scapegoats. So we live in a unique moment. The proportion of people unable to meet their basic needs is smaller today, right? Because the number of the poor have been reduced, but the extreme poor still remain. Still about 1 billion who are stuck. So as I said before, globally there are 1 to 1.5 billion people who are affluent like us. Affluent doesn't mean they are billionaires or millionaires. Like as long as you can live comfortably, you don't have to think of your next meal, you are considered affluent relative to the extreme poor. So there are about 1 to 1.5 billion people like us. And then of course now, in fact, the global poor was dropping, was falling, right? But now because of COVID-19, now the World Bank expects the extreme poor to rise again for the first time over 20 years, because it has been falling, but now because of COVID, now it is expected to rise. So you see, now even kids who are waiting for the meal also have to wear the mask. You can see this is a COVID. So this COVID-19 pandemic is expected to push an additional 150 million people into extreme poverty this year, right? So if this economic contraction continues, if the pandemic persists, then I'm afraid the number will increase again, right? So, but of course, if the pandemic had not convulsed the globe, the poverty rate was expected to have dropped 7.9% last year, but of course, it went up instead. So Charles Camosy, another ethical philosopher, says something like, giving to the poor is not just a good idea or to make us feel good about ourselves, but it's our fundamental moral duty. So now, next I'll talk about effective altruism. Okay, now altruism means to care for others, right? To love others. Altruism is the opposite of egoism, right? So we do something that wouldn't have happened anyway. What do I mean? See, effective altruism is a new movement started by Peter Singer, the philosopher, where he wants us to do good acts, good acts to help people, but doing it more effectively, right? To have the greatest positive impact, right? So in other words, we should work in effective causes, okay? Not just any cause, but doing it effectively, right? It sounds simple, but how do you work out effectiveness? So to work out, right, there are two metrics, right? One is called the quality adjusted life year, or in short, we call it QALY. Another one is cost benefit analysis. The quality adjusted life year means it's a kind of it's an algorithm, and it means to give a person 1 year of good health. Okay, so one QALY is equal to 1 year of good health. So this term QALY is a measure of the value and benefit of health outcomes, right? So the public health professionals they will use this for their health economics, right? So now health is always defined as a function of two components. One is the length of life, mortality, and the next, the quality of life, morbidity, right? So the QALY, this is an attempt to combine these two attributes into a single figure or number. Now, so the QALY has got two aspects. Now, one is talking about extending your life, right? No one has really saved your life. Why? Why do I say this? Let's say, for example, you just went through heart bypass, or you treated for diabetes, okay, or some cancers, or or whatever. Okay, right? Nobody has ever really saved you, because, as you know, evidence-based medicine is only treating the symptoms. Nobody is ever cured from diabetes, cancer, heart disease, or any number of illnesses. So in other words, no one has really saved a life, right? Because when you had a bypass, all right, okay, your heart problem is relieved. Then the next moment you may get cancer, or the next moment you may get some other severe disease, or you may catch COVID-19, the extreme form. So in other words, no one has really saved a life. And then making someone's life better while they are alive. Now, why? Why do we say this? Let's say, for example, you see someone crossing the road, right? And you see a car is about to bang this person. And then you push the person away. You save this person's life, right? And the next moment, this person is knocked down by a bus. In other words, you have saved the life of this person for a few seconds, you extended the life of this person by a few seconds, and next moment, okay, he's dead. In other words, you have not made his life better while he's still alive. Now, you look from here, okay, now, okay, for quality, 1 means 1 year of good health, right? And 0 means dead. So the time in years, you see, okay, without medical intervention, a person may die at a certain age, right? But with medical intervention here, you can see he live longer, right? So the objective is to give the person a longer lifespan, and while the person is still alive, to give the person a better quality of life. So this is what is meant by quality. So, and then again, it can be used in this way. Let's say, for example, you are deciding whether to give bed nets or guide dogs, right? So you compare two different interventions. Okay, due to the algorithm calculation, they found that you need to spend about US $50 per quality for bed nets. Bed nets is very important for the countries with malaria, right? So it saves a lot of lives. But to do to get one guide dog, it costs about $50,000 per quality. So you can see from here, which one is more cost effective, right? You see, because this is in fact more than one global grant, $30,000, right? And then, but bed nets, $50 per quality. So of course, if you're considering a global grant for countries infested with malaria, bed nets is the better solution, right? The difference in impact is a factor of 1,000. You can see from here, right? So you go for bed nets, right? Using this quality. Now, next is the cost-benefit analysis. This is a very common term used in government. Okay, what is the cost? What is the benefit? And then they will calculate. So the cost associated with taking a certain action that will give some benefit. So of course, you know, okay, there are costs and there are benefits to any policy, public policy or whatever, and we want the benefits to outweigh the cost, right? Naturally. So, okay, so for cost-benefit analysis, we get, they realize that micronutrients, children need micronutrients, like vitamin A and all that. In fact, our Polio Plus program, as they immunize the children, they also use the plus in Polio Plus to give them micronutrients. In other words, many children, they have also obtained vitamin A in addition to the oral polio drops. And they found that with vitamin A, it also helped to build up their immunity. Can you imagine $1 producing $40 of increased income for the community? But renewable energy, so much has been talked about renewable energy, but every $1 only leads to a $10 increase income for the community. So of course, if you are doing some global grant project, you will think about providing micronutrients. You look at this cost-benefit analysis, right? It has so much more, right? So of course, renewable energy is very fashionable, talking about climate change, but ultimately, it's better to provide micronutrients. So do something that wouldn't have happened anyway. Now, why do I say that? Okay, for example, in a hospital, okay, a doctor maybe is saving about, let's say for simplicity, 1 life a week. So in 1 year, he would have saved 365 lives. Say, let's say for example, that in 10 years time, he would have saved 3,650 lives. And then suddenly this doctor disappeared. So now, okay, has the hospital lost something valuable? Sadly to say, the hospital hasn't lost anything because that doctor is easily replaced by another doctor. There are so many doctors available, right? And then many people want to enter medical school, and that is by quota. So you short one doctor, they will add one more doctor. Okay, then comes another doctor who maybe save 1 life every 2 weeks. In other words, he saved less life. Or maybe there's one doctor who saved maybe 2 lives per week. So he doubled the effectiveness of the previous doctor. In other words, what happened? So in other words, the real difference is the difference in the effectiveness. You see, the real difference is you ask yourself, what would have happened if I hadn't been there? The real difference we make is the difference between what happened because of us and what have happened otherwise. In other words, all right, so we don't just see that, oh, we lost one doctor, oh, we lost so much. No, it's not true. The difference is the next doctor that comes, what is the difference the doctor makes to the doctor that has gone, right? So therefore, it improves our way of thinking, right? So now next, I want to talk about the donor life cycle and generational giving. Okay, the donor life cycle is like this. You know, a lot of times we want to raise funds, right? And many people do not know how to even go about starting to raise funds, right? So as a non-profit like our Rotary, we need to think about donor life cycle, right? And then because we need to engage and view our donors from the start of the relationship to when they give and beyond, right? So now, let me give a picture of the donor life cycle. You see, you can see from here, initially these are contacts, right? After that, you acquire, this is something like in the business, like customer acquisition. After that, they become donors. Then, of course, after sometimes some may lapse, they don't give anymore. Of course, we want to retain, or this is membership retention. We want to retain the donors. After, of course, we have to engage them. Then after we upgrade them, right? That's why we have people like EMGA Leo. He will get, hey, okay, why do you become level 2 a major donor? Why do you go to level 4 major donor? Why do you go up to Ashram, and so on? And after that, they become a lifelong donor and advocate. The best is when they become advocate, they give you free advertising. They become, in other words, they are the converts. So in other words, the 3 phases of donor life cycle are acquisition, retention, and upgrade, right? So, okay, every stage, there are specific strategies to engage the donors of every stage of the life cycle. So why it matters? Okay, you see, because we want to gain new donors, right? And we want to retain the current ones. And we want to maximize their donations at every phase of the donor life cycle. So in other words, we must understand the donors' giving characteristics, right? Then of course, when we understand our donors, we are able to tailor our donor communication strategies, right, to meet their needs, right? So, okay, in other words, whether they are at the acquisition phase or retention phase, or whatever, right? We want to meet them where they are. But also realize that the donor life cycle is continuous. It's always in a continuous motion, and you are never finished developing a donor. You should stay in touch with them continuously. In other words, once a person becomes a donor, you must continue to service the donor, right? It's continuous, right? They are never finished developing a donor. Okay, we don't want them to lapse. So next we talk about generational giving, right? Because there are several generations and different generations give differently, right? So now, look at this, all right? Okay, this group is called the matures, or in other words, they're called a silent generation. They are the baby boomers. They're people like my age, and then the generation X, and then the millennials, and the generation Y. But of course, there is one, the millennials are generation Y, and the young people, they are the Gen Z. All right, you can see from here, the baby boomers are here, and then the Gen X are the children of the matures, right? And the millennials are the children of the baby boomers, and the Gen Z are the children of the Gen X. Quite interesting, right? Okay, so they give you a chart. All right, so the first one is the greatest silent or mature generation. They are pre-45. They are now more than 75 years old. They are in their late elderhood, right? The baby boomers are people like me. I'm born within this region. I'm in my elderhood now. The Gen X are those people who are now 40 to born 65 to 80, right? They are in midlife. Then the Gen Y are the people that are young, that 21 to 39, that are in young adulthood. And of course, the Gen Z, the centennials, are those post-2000. Now, these people are what we call the digital natives. They are born into a world where they have never known a world without the internet, right? But of course, the Gen Y, they grew into the internet, they grew into mobile apps, but the Gen Z people are digital natives because everywhere they go around with the phone. They're always looking at the phone. Now, so we talk about the Gen Y. The Gen Y, Generation Y, are the millennials that are born between 81 and 99, and they are now blossoming into the largest generation by population in demographics. You know why? Because when baby boomers came, born between 46 to 64, we formed the largest segment of demographics. We were the biggest population group when we were around at the time when we were born, right? So of course, now they give birth to the millennials. The millennials had becoming the next biggest demographic group of the world, right? And there is going to be a great transfer of wealth. In other words, the wealth of the baby boomers will be transferred to the millennials, because the millennials are the children. So they will leave the will to the children. So in other words, the millennials are the people you should be targeting for donation, because they are going to inherit the wealth of the baby boomers, right? So Okay, so despite the millennials embracing technology, social activism, wanting to make a tangible difference in the world, one thing hasn't changed between generations. The life cycle of donors and the capacity to give. This never changes between generations. Right? It's constant. So the Gen X, has been overshadowed by the boomers, right? Because they were a lesser democratic group. But the thing is, they will be important for the next 10 years, because they are the ones now growing into more elderhood, and so they are the people with the money. And the millennials still got to wait a bit because they are still young, right? So they will be coming after the Gen X. So in other words, now we target the Gen X first. After that, we target the millennials. Some millennials are very rich right now because of the internet age and cryptocurrency. So in other words, we have to be more ambitious if we want to do good. Okay, it's not just that we want to do good. We have to be ambitious to do good. Now, doing good in the world is a good idea. Doing good better requires effective altruism. But doing the most good requires that all Rotarians make the Rotary Foundation their #1 choice for Rotarians charitable giving, right? So in other words, you all know that the Rotary slogan, foundation slogan, doing good in the world. Okay, to me, that is only the beginning. We want to do good better. And of course, we want to do the most good. And we can use the Rotary Foundation to do the most good by making it our #1 choice for our charitable giving, right? You have the power to transform lives. More importantly, you have the power to save lives. Because if you remember, I said that 18,000 children would have died by midnight tonight. Okay, you may not be able to save all the 18,000. All you need to do is just save one, save two. You have done your part. At least you reduce that number by a little bit. Imagine all the Rotarians around the world, each one saving one life. And there are 1.2 million Rotarians. How many lives can we save? In other words, we have the power to save lives. And with that, I end with a quote by Samuel Johnson. The true measure of a man is how he treats someone who can do him absolutely no good. In other words, we're helping people and we don't expect anything in return because we are helping people and we don't even know who they are, but we know that we are saving lives. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Michael, for the very comprehensive and informative aspect of raising funds in a different perspective of elevating poverty.
Thank you.
Now I will thank all the three speakers, PGCT, PGD Leslie, and PGD Ding. You'll be ready to have our next question and answer. So for those who want to ask questions, please kindly raise your hand and the tech team will unmute you and you can direct the questions to the three distinguished speakers, if you like. Thank you. Now we open it for question and answer. Can we have the first one, please? Can tech team please token up? Anybody? We have 20 minutes of question and answer, so don't worry. Anyone?
Oh, EMDLU, I think they're supposed to raise the hands.
Yeah, I told them to raise the hand.
Yeah, okay.
I'm trying to look at it. I can't see any hands yet.
Oh, okay.
The tech team, can you help me if you see any hands? I've not seen any yet.
Or maybe
PDG Leo, there's a question there. Would we receive a copy of the PowerPoint? I think Bulaji is asking, so maybe you want to share that. Yeah.
I think the tech team can make the presentation available for all the three speakers, I think. Tech team, no problem. Or you can leave your email in the chat box.
I'll share mine with Huraline because my file is rather big. So Huraline, just send me a reminder. I can share the file with you, no issues.
Thank you. I'm sure we have some questions.
Like everybody is happy to give. Very good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think you're fantastic. All the statistics are fantastic. You have done that.
Well done.
I expected more questions from Michael Yee, but there's something which is a real eye-opener. Something which I think all of you must have been shocking. Why a fundraising can go into that. Michael has shown us a different perspective of fundraising. We have all been giving, but how good are we giving? How giving being the red point? I think that's very interesting.
Are there any challenges in fundraising during this time of pandemic? Would anyone want to share with us? How have you all been doing your fundraising?
Maybe we can hear something from the Philippines. They are great fundraisers, I know.
If I may just have a reaction, just if I may.
Yeah.
I'm from District 3860, Stephen or Stephen
Yep.
Chian.
Yep.
Actually, I guess most of the people are dumbstruck in a way after, not really dumbstruck, but we're overwhelmed by ARFC Michael Yee's presentation. I think it was a very good presentation. There was so much information that it took us a while, a long time to digest it. I think it's a really great presentation how he said we should target the gosh, I even forgot now, but anyway, the 50-something first, and then we should not forget the even younger generation. With so much information, ARFC Michael Yee, can you sort of like summarize, like maybe in just a sentence or a paragraph, what we should do, like, you know, concise it in a bit, if you may, your presentation, just to, you know, the gist, like the core, or like, you know.
Okay. Yes, because the different generations give differently. You know, they have got different motive for giving. I think those people in the older generations, much older, maybe about even older than me, and those what we call the matures or the silent generation, they will just donate to causes that they're passionate about. In other words, they may not ask questions like, you know, they certainly won't ask you to like calculate, you know, the quality, for example, or to calculate cost benefit and all that. You see, so as you can see nowadays, for example, Bill Gates, he has started this movement because he was quite young then, you know, whereby they make sure that every donation counts. Let's say he support us with the, for example, Polio Plus, right? You give $1, I will match you $2, right? He want you to give something. He's not going to give you a free gift, right? He's not going to say, oh, okay, I'm going to give $100 million. But he said, you give me 50 million first, right? So that's why we have to raise 50 million worldwide, and then he'll donate 100 million. So in other words, there is a precondition for him to give, right? If you don't, well, you give less, he'll give less. So therefore, we have to strive to give more. And then again, younger people, they are more technically minded. They are more technical minded. And so they start to think in terms of the impact they're going to have on the giving. And in fact, that's why we have to go into what is called generational giving, because not every generation gives the same way. And somehow, you can see the four different bands, four or five different bands of people, because they are born around that period, right? So they generally think similarly. They think because they're all subject, you know, to, for example, right now, maybe let's say you talk to the digital native, let's say you talk to those people who are in, for example, the Gen Z, they will be talking about cryptocurrencies. And then the baby boomers will be scratching their head, what is cryptocurrency, right? So, and then, okay, millennial Y, the millennial generation, of course, those are more progressive, they have grown into the internet. They will also looking into cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and all that, right? But of course, okay, it's very simple, you know, like for example, you say, you know, Warren Buffett has made a comment. He say that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is like rat poison. I mean, his comments are almost laughable, you know. You see, he's one of the wealthiest men in the world, and he doesn't understand Bitcoin at all. He doesn't understand cryptocurrency. You know, he say cryptocurrency is like rat poison. So that phrase has become so well known. So that's why I can see people from different generations think differently. See? So I am born in the baby boomers. At least I consider myself to be very progressive. So I grew into the internet, grew into mobile apps, and now I think I can think as well as the millennials and the Gen Z, because I do read a lot as well. So we have to study generational giving. because each generation gives differently. They have different objectives. But of course, the younger generation, they look for impact in the giving. That is most important. They want to, not impact, they want it to be measurable, to be calculable. And they want to, they ask, what are the outcomes? They want to know the outcomes. Right. See, because in a short talk, I'm not able to go into details, but thanks for the question.
Okay, I hope that answered your question, Stephen Chen. Now I have another question from Mark Wang, 3310. Mark, over to you. Can the tech team please unmute him?
Okay, I'm unmuted. Yeah, I enjoy everybody's talk. I think PDG Leslie talked about the fun part of funding or fundraising. I actually would like to know, are there any hard, fast guidelines or no-nos as to how much of our contribution or our money, which is the same part, goes to fund, because that's going to cost some money, as opposed to 100% going to charity, then you would have no fund.
Thank you, Mark, for the great question. If I may, well, when you organize an event, there's bound to be costs, there's bound to be some overheads that you look into. Mind you, this is not just an outright giving that you just signed, because this is also an event that you want to create awareness for potential Rotarians, for friends of Rotary that you want to impress. Because if everybody just dip into the pocket and go online and pay, it will be very cut and dry. Fine, Rotary Foundations get 100% of your giving, but it's going to be cut and dry. So I think we've got to be mindful that you have an event, you got to be very careful that perhaps maybe not more than 30–40% goes to the cost, but every cent raised should go to the foundation, in fact. So when they organize events and all that, a lot of clubs that are selling tickets, I'm sure they're mindful of that. So a lot of the money raised will go direct to the project, just like what they do for club fundraising. I do not think they would want to keep a percentage of it. And if they do, they got to account with the club members, they got to make sure they're accountable. So Mark, I think we're all very cognizant of transparency and stewardship. So I think whatever we do in having events, we're going to make sure that we try to maximize whatever through TRF and make sure that whatever the fun part of it will be the expenditure that we spend on ourselves. Yeah, we've got to just be very careful. But it's something that you have really touched on, and I think I appreciate that, because we got to be very careful not to overstep the fun part of things, and then 80% of it goes to a party and 20% it goes to TRF. That's not what it's all Rotary all about. Because we are so proud of our track record of not using professional fundraisers, because they're professional fundraisers that take a massive cut from all these donation that you give. 50–60% will go to professional fundraisers, and here Rotary Foundation 91–92% or whatever we do that goes to foundation goes to the end user and the beneficiary. So very proud of that. All right, I hope that answers the question, Mark.
Thank you, PDG.
Thank you, Leslie. And now we have next question from ARFC Penny of Polygrapho. Over to you. Can the tech team please unmute ARFC Penny?
Thank you very much to our moderator, EMGA Leo, and to our speakers. Congratulations for your excellent presentations. My question is, during this time of the pandemic, which has been for the last 2 years, did we discover any new effective, more effective, or shall we say, more successful fundraising activity that we have not seen before? What do you think is the most effective fundraising activity that you had experienced or learned from this past months? Any of the speakers may.
I think PDGCT, you should be able to answer that.
Thanks, ARFC. In fact, I think a lot of during this pandemic, we in fact have even the Rotractors and all. I think the online fundraising has been one of the key platforms that has been used. It could be the online concerts, and Rotractors were really showcasing their talents, and using that platform is where a couple of Rotary clubs were actually raising funds. And you also have virtual walks, virtual runs. So we can actually use this platform. And I think technology has been amazing this last 1 year to have converted what we can do physically to actually convert that to a virtual platform where fundraising is as simple as you donate what you like. And if we can produce something online that attracts someone, even a cooking lesson, for example, if you, instead of having a physical, a chef coming in, for a demonstration, you have it online, and, you don't any funds raised and for a special recipe. So we need to come up with new ideas, actually. And I just like to touch a bit on what Mike said earlier. The new generation, I think their concern is, where is their funds going to? How are you going to spend that money? Even they give you as little $100, they want to know how impactful that $100 is. Who does receive this money? So if we are able as Rotarians to really show people that, where your funds goes to, I think that's so crucial. Even in times of troubled times like this, Rotary has been out there globally, and we have never stopped. In fact, I think Rotarians worldwide have worked double hard, even to the extent that our foundation funds has also depleted a little bit more. But we worked twice as hard because that was an opportunity to showcase what we can do. And if we can showcase that, I am sure we'll be able to convince, or even, our Rotarians be able to appreciate what the foundation does. So if we can appreciate what our foundation does, I'm sure giving to the foundation is an obligation that we feel that we all should be doing, whether it's little or a bit more. So I hope, Penny, that helps you with some of the virtual things that you can do.
Okay, do you have any more questions? We still have about 8 minutes. We can take 1 or 2 more questions. Please raise your hands if you have any questions.
Maybe I have a question for some of our friends from Manila, and we have, from Bangladesh.
Yeah.
During this time, I mean, do you have any new ideas or something that you can share with us in terms of your fundraising? I mean, for your givings, how do you encourage your Rotarians to give in difficult times?
I think, Siti, you don't mind, I will just hear from PDG Nelly of District 3522 Taiwan first.
Okay.
Over to you, Nelly. Please tag team and unmute PDG Nelly.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Nelly from Taiwan, Taipei, and my present position is Help Major Give initiative, and I just would like to know what is the best way to encourage people who's willing to become AKS members or name endowment fund, such as $25,000 or $50. Is there any way to encourage Rotarian, aside of just having dinner and talking to them one by one? Is there any way to that maybe RFC Michael E can share, because it is a very gallant speech I really enjoy.
Oh, thank you very much, Nelly, for your kind compliments. Well, as I mentioned before, we have to meet the needs where they are, because people who are giving 1 PHF, people are giving a major donor from level 1 to level 4, or maybe Arts Club. We have to pre-qualify them, right? Because we roughly know how much they can give. But of course, there are also some people who can give a lot, but they are not willing to give, or they're not willing to give a lot. And there is also one group of people who are not super rich, but they can give a lot. All right, so in other words, they are not rich, but they are rich in giving. So for me, when I raise funds, I normally know who are the people. I would have seen their giving pattern for a number of years, right, for quite a few years. So I also talk to people a lot. So as I talk, I will roughly gauge how they give. I will also study the past patterns, right? Like for example, there was one Rotarian who has given only $2,000, right? So I talked to her, and she's from Malaysia. Okay, I think I know how to mention her name, PP Christina Chin of Bandar Penggara Mandarin. At the time, she was giving only 2,000. So I said, okay, this year I'm the DG, right? Why do you support me? You know, at the same time, help somebody, help the foundation. You know, I talked to her, you know. I said, okay, would you like to go up to major donor level 1? After that, she thought about it, thought very hard, because $1 to 4 ringgit, you know, so finally, you know what? He said, okay, DJ Michael, I'll do it for you. So, you know, from 2,000, she put in 8,000 and become major donor level 1, you know, all right. And then I didn't stop there. I said, how about $1 more $1,000 for Polio Plus? Since she already give me so much there, okay. That $1,000 I put in also. So now she put in 9,000, right? And then another one is my good friend from Tanjong Pagar Club, this CP Albert Wong, also the same thing. At the time, he was only 4,000. So I told him, you know, well, 4,000, can you do it just to support me for this year? You know, you're also helping a lot of people. You know, can you put in 6,000? And well, of course, for him, he made his decision quite fast. He said, okay, I'll support you. So in other words, sometimes you can use a position to do it. It's like, for example, my club, we have a member who has been giving out. He is an Arch Club Society. At the time, he was chair circle in half a million. So at the time, we were organizing a fundraising dinner, and our guest of honor was the foundation trustee chair at the time. You know, past President Gary Huang. He's also a personal friend of this big donor. His name is called Dato Tan Yen Sin. So what we did was, we organized a special pre-dinner, okay? Pre-dinner only between our Dato Tan Yen Sin, the big donor, and past President Gary Huang, trustee chair, and also a group of our senior people, say at one table of 10. And we wanted to pay for it. You know, our DG at the time, Jeff Yong and me, we wanted to share the dinner. But you know what? And then our Dato Tan said, no. I said, I will pay for the dinner. He insists on paying. So, okay, fine. Never mind, since you want to pay, right? Then after that, he said, and we talked to him, you know, we are going to have a fundraising dinner, you know, and we hope that you will be able to match the giving. In other words, dollar for dollar, right? When they give 1,000, you match 1,000. When they give 10, you match 10. When they give 100, you match 100. Then you know what? And then in front of you know, trustee Gary, he was very happy. He immediately say, yeah, sure, okay, yeah, okay. I must mention at the time I was working with DGE Joanne Kam. She at the time was a fundraising chair, so we worked together on this. So and then we worked, and then he said, okay, I will match. All right. Then he was saying, initially he said that he will match up to about something like 200,000-300,000. Okay. And then and he said that only for the pledges during the dinner. Okay. Then after that, after the dinner was over, we talked to him again, you know. We said that, how about you also match those donations already given? Then he was still very happy. Then he thought about it very seriously. He said, okay, I will now extend my my matching to all the giving that was also given before the fundraising dinner. So because of that, his total matching came up to about 750,000 US. 750,000. I think it was almost 800,000, including the Polio Plus. So he matched a lot. And at that year, he also committed another 200,000. So in that year, he gave $1 million. That was just about 2 years ago. But $1 million from one person is very cost effective. Can you imagine how many PHF you want to raise to get $1 million? So in other words, we raised the fund, he matched. So the funds raised was, that year we raised 1.4 million. That year. That was 2019 to 20. Our governor then was DG Jeff Yong. So total we raised 1.4 million. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, PDG Michael Yee, for the sharing. I think now we have come to the end of the question answer session. Now it's my pleasure to call upon our DGE, Joanne Kam from 3310, Zone 10C, to give her review and reflection of the three presentation. Over to you, DGE, Joanne.
Rotary International Director, Surgeon Liu, who is our convener for the 2021 Singapore Rotary Institute. Institute Chair, Rotary Coordinator, PDG Gimbok. Session Moderator, Endowment Major Gifts Advisor, PDG Liu Cheng Lim. All present, past, future, zone, district, and club leaders, all Rotarians and Rotractors. A big thank you to all the speakers today for their great presentations, their invaluable sharing of their knowledge, various information, ideas on today's theme, the topic of effective fundraising for sustainable projects. All Rotary members believe that we have a shared responsibility to take action on our world's most persistent issues. We work together to promote peace, fight disease, provide clean water, sanitation and hygiene, save mothers and children, support education, grow local economies, protect the environment. And for the 11th consecutive year, the Rotary Foundation has received the highest rating, 4 stars. So 4 stars is the highest, from Charity Navigator, an independent evaluator of charities in the United States of America. The Rotary Foundation earned this recognition for demonstrating both strong financial health and commitment to accountability and transparency. The rating reflects Charity Navigator's assessment of our Rotary Foundation, which uses donations, sustains its programs and services, and practices good governance and openness. The Rotary Foundation is our charity. It can help you, your district, your clubs to make an impact in your local community and in the world. Donations to the Rotary Foundation will help Rotarians bring about lasting change. And currently, contributions to the Polio Plus Fund of up to 50 million per year continue to be matched 2-to-1 by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. In addition, districts that donate DDF to Polio Plus will also have their donations matched at 50% by the World Fund. Our donations to the annual fund share can help to improve communities around the world. These generate district designated funds, which will help support district and global grants, the World Fund, and an area of focus. And not forgetting the World Fund matching of 80% towards global grant projects that are approved. Rotary also hopes to build the endowment to 2.025 billion by 2025 to ensure that we have the resources we need for meaningful projects year after year. We have the opening remarks by Institute convener, RID Surgeon, who mentioned contribution to the Rotary Foundation can save lives. And fundraising needs every Rotarian to make the donation to change lives. It's not just 1, 2, 3 big donors, it's everyone. Every one of us, no matter how big or how small, we join hands to do it together for our foundation, for the people around us. PDG CD Subaida, DRFC District 3300, talks about giving made easy. She talks about the challenge of how to make giving to the Rotary Foundation. How do we make it easy? And it is one of the obligations of being a Rotarian to donate to the Rotary Foundation. She talked about the TRFs, the Rotary Foundation's share system, the matching by the World Fund for approved global grant projects. We should set goals. How do we encourage our clubs, our Rotarians to participate? And how do we encourage Rotarians to give, starting from as low as $25 US? Just make it as part of our habits. We have meals out there. Some of you have wines, whiskeys, and all that. They are more than the $25 US. So just take out one of the meals and give it to Rotary Foundation. Just make it a point and put aside that money. Now, how do we encourage clubs to explore global grant projects that gives bigger impact to our communities? So small actions, big difference. PDG Leslie Salihuddin talks about fun in fundraising. So fundraising should be fun, should be easy on the pocket and painless, uniting members and having novel ideas. Think out of the box. Now, in today's fundraising, we have to adapt to the virtual world or the hybrid world. How do we fundraise without in-person events? So PDG Leslie has shared examples of various fundraising ideas for the annual fund for Polio Plus during the past few years. And clubs and districts can learn from these ideas and best practices. Think out of the box, innovate, and not to forget, involve our Rotractors and family of Rotary too. PDG Michael E., Assistant Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator. He talks about a life you can save, acting now to end poverty. And what is poverty and why should we care? Is it a problem? If it is, what can we do about it? And he talks about effective altruism. Being altruistic is not just being charitable. It's about having a heart for other people, that you're concerned about others around you. He talks about the donor life cycle, the generational giving. Amongst different generations, different motivations, and we need to take note of, what are the motivations behind giving. So we have to work out the most effective ways to bring about the greatest positive impact on the people we're trying to help. And we have the 4 strategic priorities. So whatever we do at the club, at the district, do not forget the Rotary's 4 strategic priorities. Increase our impact, expand our reach, increase participant engagement, and increase our ability to adapt. So how do you encourage Rotarians to give? What strategies have you used to attract your new donors? How do you recognize and thank your first-time donors? How do you involve Rotractors in your fundraising efforts? How do you match donor interests with grant opportunities or Rotary activities? And what is the benefit of sharing progress on fundraising goals with members and donors? How have you used the Work to Foundation as an engagement tool for your district, for your club? And how do you regularly thank and recognize your donors? So fundraising in challenging times right now, we have to adapt. And there is this 4-step process that Rotary uses. Step 1, identification. Step 2, cultivation. Step 3, solicitation. Step 4, stewardship. So step 1, identification. How do you identify your prospective donors? How do you know if a person is a good prospect or not a good prospect? What kind of information do you need from the person to find out? You have to do your homework. Cultivation. How would you next approach your prospect? How would you invite the person to a Rotary event or on a Zoom meeting? And what goals are you setting for this meeting or activity? Solicitation. How do you secure the gift? Work with your fund development partner. Leverage also on the endowment major gifts advisors at the various zones. Donor stewardship. Saying thank you to a donor directly, presenting the donor with recognition pins, crystals, recognizing them at district conferences, inviting them to special events, and so forth. So do not forget to thank them. And one thing is we have to be more ambitious if you want to do good. Doing good in the world is a good idea. Doing good better requires effective altruism. Doing the most good requires that all Rotarians make the Rotary Foundation our #1 choice for charity giving. We have the power to transform lives. More importantly, we have the power to save lives. We are one Rotary. Let us join hands, unite, and take action to last change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, DG and Joanne, for the wonderful wrap-up of this session. Now it's my great honor to call upon the 2021 Singapore Rotary Institute Chair, PDG Gimbok, to give his final closing remark. Over to you, PDG Gimbok.
Thank you, moderators, EMGA Liu Ching Lim, Institute Convener, Rotary International Director, Surgeon Liu Chitian, RRFS Team Leader, EMGA ENT, Sun Hongxiu, Assistant RRFS Team Leader, PDG Jason Lim, Moderator, EMGA Liu Ching Lim. Distinguished speakers, my fellow Rotarians, good evening.
Good evening.
With so many charity and causes competing to raise funds, the current COVID-19 pandemic has not made it any easier. However, the Rotary Foundation is our charity. If we, as Rotarians, don't support, who else would support it? It is already mentioned many times tonight. When you donate to the Rotary Foundation, you are helping Rotarians to make a difference in the life of millions of people around the world by promoting peace, preventing disease, eradicating polio, bolstering economic developments, providing clean water and sanitation, and caring for the earth we live in. We can also help those at the bottom billions, as mentioned by PDG Michael E., if you give to the Rotary Foundation. And I also learned a new term tonight. We have to help the global poor. Mother Teresa once said, it is not how much we give, but how much love we put in the giving. According to Saint Francis of Assisi, it is in giving that we receive. And Winston Churchill said, we made alive by what we give. It cannot be truer that what these great people have said. So when you give, so when do you give? Alive or when you are gone? Chuck Finney, the founder of a DFS, an Irish-American billionaire, the man who actually inspired Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and others to devote their wealth to the service of humanity during their lifetimes. He believed in giving while living and derived immense satisfaction making a difference during his lifetime. He is my role model. We must be creative in fundraising as well. One genius yet simple idea like the Ice Bucket Challenge helped to raise more than 200 million. So we need more of these creative ideas to raise funds, especially in this period of time. So, as what PDG Leslie said, we must think outside of the box to be able to come up with some interesting or creative idea to help us to raise funds. So, in closing, I would like to congratulate RF team leaders PDG ENT Sun Hongxiu and his team for planning and selecting tonight's choice of speakers on fundraising. So tonight's presentation and discussions are very much in line with the Rotary Actions Plan. Thanks also go to the tech support team. I actually call them, they are the living Copperfields. They are the one that make sure that the session can be carried out smoothly, and they have the power, even more powerful than David Copperfield, to move people around without you moving out of your seat. Thank you, tech support. And of course, you, the participants, I hope you'll go away tonight more inspired, as what PDG Michael E. said. We need to do most good. Thank you, everyone. See you on the 30th next week. Good night.
Thank you, PDG Gimbok. I'm a bit overwhelmed by the speakers tonight and all the ex-team. As you all know, I'm one of the AKS chair members. So with all these inspiration speech from Gimbok, from the reading, I pledge I will obligate myself to be a foundation circle this year. Thank you, Gimbok. for motivating and inspiring me. And all of you, thank you very much. Now I'd like to call upon my big boss, that is the Rotary Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator, to do the final adjournment of our breakout session. To Jason, please. Over to you, PDG Jason.
Thank you, EMGA and moderators, Leo. Can the tag team please spotlight my big boss, RRFS training team leader, PDG ENT. Because last week he did not speak. He's here.
Oh, I see. I didn't thought.
Can the tag team please also spotlight him?
Yeah, he's here.
And please allow him to unmute himself. Yes, big boss. Go ahead. You speak first.
Thank you, Jason. And I just want to say it's a very, very wonderful seminar and very good meeting. And I think all of us have shared all the speakers' ideas and a very good moderator to lead us to have a very good discussion. So I want to say it again. I thank you to the moderator, Liu Chen Lin, and the PDG CT, and DG Joanne, and the PDG Lacey, and the PDG Michael Yi, and our very special guest, our director, Surgeon Chi-Tien Liu, and our chair, Kim Bok. And thank you all of us, all of you join this wonderful meeting. And I thank you. And I think this year, after this seminar, this year fundraising will be growth more very, very much. And I hope this will accomplish our goal is to doing good in the world in the near future. Thank you all of us. Oh, thank you all of you. Thank you. Thank you all your meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, ENT.
Thank you. Thank you, ENT. So before I officially adjourn the meeting, I know all of you have good medicine today. Are you all ready? Are you all ready? Do you understand what I mean by ready? Because we have a very good speakers who touch on the roots of poverty, the best practice of fundraising, and we have a very good reflection also, right? DG Joanne touched about the 4 ways of fundraising. Ladies and gentlemen, fundraising do not begins on Rotarians. It actually begins from all of us. You agree with me? I saw Pauline smiling. I hope Pauline will tell Frankie that this year, no LV for me, no Hermes for me. Please donate to the Rotary Foundation. If you smile, that means you agree. Thank you very much. She quickly covered her face. And I'm very glad EMGA Leo, he says that this year is going to be the what circle?
Foundation circle. Foundation. Foundation, 1 million.
Foundation. Everybody heard that? I intentionally let you repeat that. So today is the day that you have committed, and I'm sure you will not fail the Rotary Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, together we contribute to the Rotary Foundation for doing good in the world to serve and change lives. I hope you enjoy the session. Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you. I think please all stay back for the group photograph. Huh? And Joanne, is it?
Yes. Yes, stay on. And temporarily stop your chats for now so that we can take the group photos. Okay. All look good. Smile. Get ready. Turn on all your videos, please. Turn on your videos. Stop the chat temporarily.
Yeah.
Turn on your videos. Right. Smile because you don't know which page you're on. Cheese.
Cheese.
Continue smiling. Smile, smile, cheese. Yay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all
The
for being
next
with us
session
today.
is
CMJ Liu.
officially adjourned.
Thank you.
We have one more
Well done. Well done.
day in time.
Well done.
Thank
Well
you.
done, Sydney. Well done, Leslie.
Wonderful
Well done,
seminar,
Michael.
wonderful.
Thanks, Kimbok. Thanks, our director.
Yep. Thank you,
Thank
Director.
you.
Thank you,
Sergeant.
everybody
Good
from
Thank
District
you,
Court
Leo.
and
Leo.
Thanks,
Leo.
everybody.
Yes.
Well done, Leo.
Bye-bye.
Great
Good
job.
night.
Great job. Well done, Leo.
Yo.
Yeah, thank you. Have to
Wow,
support,
1 million.
have to support this, our Alvin.
Our
Wow.
district contribution will
Yeah.
go
Run
up.
already. Home run already.
Home run for this.
Hey, where's
year.
our
Thank you.
director?
Thank you.
Director
A
gone
few more
already.
million for next year. Yeah, you don't forget next 3 years. we need
Okay.
Ah, Director will cut down.
Thank you, everybody. We see you
Next year will
next
slow down. Next year will
next
slow down.
next
Thank you,
Sunday.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Alex.
Thank you, everyone.